A viewer asked me to cover Borderlands 2 VR on the channel, and although I'm not particularly familiar with the series, having only played the game briefly before this, I decided to take a quick look to see how it performs on a system with an RTX 3080, Ryzen 5, 5600X CPU, and 32 GB of DDR4 3600 MHz RAM. So let's jump in.
Immersed robot.
Starting out with the graphical settings the game defaulted on for me, and keeping things simple with 100% Steam VR resolution scaling at 90Hz refresh rate, I picked up a save at the beginning of the game. With these settings the game was running flawlessly with plenty of headroom on both GPU and CPU. The game felt incredibly fluid and looked great in the headset.
Even though Knuckle Dragger blindsided me, I know my way around this glacier. I bet you will find my eye in Frostbite Crevasse. Ah!
Stick close to the robot. He will help you get off this glacier and into the city of Sanctuary.
The frame timings in FPS VR made it clear that I could ramp things up, so I switched everything up to the highest possible graphical settings. This only seemed to add around 1 millisecond to overall frame timings, so I decided to retain these settings for the remainder of the test.
Miss location! Ah! I hear bully bots! Sick a minion! Protect me, Squire!
Moments of action and large fast-moving objects barely affected frame timings at all as I continued to play through this opening section. I changed the refresh rate on my index up to 120 Hz, and as expected the game continued to run flawlessly with a reprojection ratio of 0 and no dropped frames whatsoever.
Get to Sanctuary.
Hey! What the dog? Are you fighting?
Retaining 100% resolution scaling, I flipped things up to 144 Hz refresh rate in my headset. Again, it continued to run perfectly at this level and looked truly incredible.
Vault Hunter gets killed by me. You see the problem here? You're still alive. So if you could just do me a favor and off yourself, that'd be great. Thanks, Pumpkin.
And open! Which means that whoever has my eye is very...
For some bizarre reason, the flat cutscene sections were the only parts of the game which suffered in terms of performance. This might be linked to the frame rate the videos are running at on the 2D plane, but either way it didn't detract from the main part of the game at all. Even in this action-packed section, the game continued to run at a solid 144 frames per second and was a joy to play.
Yet another miraculous advantage of using a virtual echo. Now slay that monster, minion!
Changing things round a little, I placed the refresh rate of my headset back down to 90 Hz and then ramped up super sampling to 200% to give that slightly crisper feel to the overall image quality. While frame timings were higher with this setting, the game continued to run at a solid 90 frames per second, so if your preference is greater clarity at lower frame rates, then this is probably the setting for you.
Ha! This door's Hyperion tech. Child's play. And open!
Moving things up to 120 Hz proved a step too far, and at that point I had finally strained the system into reprojection, and the game was running at a constant 60 FPS at this point, although there were fleeting moments where it tried to push for native 120.
Captain Flint. The jerk kept me as his torture plaything for a few months. We played games like Dodge the Blowtorch and Don't Get Dunked into the Pool of Acid. I was really good at the first one.
Attention!
To finish off, I switched back to 90 Hz and my preferred super sampling percentage of 150%. This, of course, gave me plenty of headroom and little question of ever falling into reprojection. I generally run games at 150% resolution scaling in Steam VR, but it has to be said that I think I saw a nice little boost when pushing it up to 200 in this particular game, so eventually settled back on that. I will say that although it maintained 90 FPS for most of the time, I did notice occasional dips in this slightly busier section. Overall, this game is clearly well optimized, and the general graphical style doesn't seem to be too demanding at all. Apart from the drop in performance during the flat cutscene sections, the game runs perfectly and looks stunning in places. While not a graphical powerhouse of a game, the stylized graphics work extremely well in VR. Although not the type of title I tend to gravitate towards, I was impressed with this opening section of Borderlands 2, and I'll probably continue with the game for a while, especially since performance is so solid throughout the experience. I hope this gives you all some idea of how the game runs using an RTX 3080.
Hey, Hammerlock! Since my minion just saved your town,
Please hesitantly tap the like button and don't forget to subscribe for more concise and informative VR content. You can also join our Discord by clicking on the link in the description of this video. And, as always, I'll catch you on the flippity flip.